How many family dinners are you going to miss? How many vacations are you not going to go on? How many long weekends are you not going to be able to enjoy? And then at the end of it, what do you have?
Welcome to the Smart Brand Marketing Podcast with your host, Tom, the Digital Architect Liebelt. Are you tired of spending money on marketing efforts that produce little or no results? Unable to decide whether internet marketing is right for your business? Want to take your brand to the next level but are unsure of what steps to take next? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in their pursuit of growing a profitable business and learning actionable strategies on how they can outperform brands that are older, bigger, and stronger.
Hey listener, another Wednesday brings another session of the Smart Brand Marketing Podcast, episode 12. Today I brought in a friend of mine, Pete Hall. He travels to Bali 6 months out of the year and is almost location independent. The interesting twist is that his business is very local, and unlike a lot of others that strictly work from their laptop, he's had to work hard to find some freedom in it. Let's find out how he did it. There's probably 1,000 or 2,000 people listening right now, and they have businesses and they hate their lives. They're in the cold, they're in maybe rain, they're in just an environment they don't like, right? And they're thinking they can never, ever leave the business because without them, it's going to collapse. But you have a very normal business, which also would seem like you can't really delegate it, but you've done it.
So, yeah, well, I have a couple of different businesses. My biggest problem is typical entrepreneur. I have the entrepreneurial disease, the shiny object syndrome, and, I've ended up with 4 businesses now currently operating, and you're totally right. So I was one of those people that felt that the business is not going to function without me. Like, I need to be totally involved, and nobody's going to be able to do it as good as I can, and you have to let go. It's one of the hardest things possible to accomplish. It feels like that. I shouldn't say it is. But once you do it, it's very liberating, and it opens up the platform there for scaling. I mean, you could do so much more once you start filling in gaps. So anything where you're not strong, like if you're not a good salesperson, you hire a salesperson. If you're not a good administrative person, you hire somebody to do your administrative stuff. So it took me a long time to figure that out, and I've tried to hire in the past, and it's not worked out. I'm one of those, right? So I got burned a couple of times, and I said, you know what? I can't do this. I'll do it myself, and that'll be it. But you get burned out, and it's not worth it. It's not a business. Then it's a job.
Yeah, I remember talking to you before, and you really had a hard time giving it up to someone else. But can you kind of break down your business a little bit, especially the IT one in New Jersey? Because that's like a regular business, which a lot of people can probably comprehend and kind of, they're familiar with how that would work.
So that's a business I've had for 17 years, and it's a typical IT support company. So we provide computer network services for small to medium-sized businesses. We do end-user help desk support. We'll do network migrations, administration, server setups, that kind of thing. So it's hands-on half the time, and half the time the stuff can be done remotely. And I was juggling it myself for most of that time, and I've tried to hire. And in that type of a business, the first hire that I did was a technical person, because I wanted to take that off of my shoulders. And in this field, I'm sure your listeners can understand that some technical people get very focused on that, and they suffer in other areas. So it never really quite worked out the way that it should have.
What happened?
If they had to go on site and deal with the client, they could do the tech work, but they couldn't really interface as well as I would with the end client, with the office manager at the client's location. So normally after you finish the work, or even when you come through the door, you greet the client, you make them comfortable with you, and then you get right down to work. And then when you finish up, you either show them what you did, or you explain it to them and ask them if there's any other problems, and then you get them to sign off on paperwork, and then you leave. Those people skills were lacking, and I wasn't getting total compliance with what I needed to do to cover my own butt on that stuff. So,
did you have an SOP in place or no for going into a client's place?
Yeah, and that's something else, Tom. No, I didn't. And it's funny that you bring that up. I will certainly admit that I'm not there apparently. I've had this business for 17 years, and I will also tell you 17 years ago, I joined a volunteer fire company in New Jersey where I had lived. And it's funny because the first thing they do when you walk through the door and join is they hand you about a 3-inch thick binder full of SOPs. and it's how you do anything and everything.
Right.
And never, ever did I think to equate that to my own business and incorporate it. It would have made sense, and had I done something like that's something else. Is getting the SOPs is huge, and I'm in the process of doing that now. A good book on that is Sam Carpenter's Work the System.
Oh, yeah.
He gives background in his book on how he took his business to the next level from falling apart to what it is now, and it totally makes sense, and every business needs to do that. And that could be the first step, but really the first step to get yourself out of the rut and being chained to it is whatever you don't like, you dread doing, or you procrastinate on, whatever that is, but it has to be done with the business. That's what you need to hire first.
Okay, so walk me through how you did that with this business.
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So the tech stuff, that was a job. That wasn't really something that I was focused on doing for the rest of my life. It's something that I didn't hate doing. I mean, you do it for 10 plus years yourself and you do start to hate it. But it's something that I was more apt to want to be the salesperson or be the people person interfacing with the client and understanding their issues and creating the solution for them. I enjoyed that much more than actually doing the physical technical work.
Yeah, so you like being social.
Being sociable is part of it. For me, it's figuring out a business and creating it and having it operate, right? So finding ways to create additional sources of income, incorporating things into bring that assists your end users, so your target audience. I enjoy that kind of thing. I don't enjoy the doing the work itself. Because then you get tied up in doing that, and then you're focused on that, and you're not focused on growing the business and expanding it and really providing the services that you could be at that next level.
Yeah, so it's working in the business versus on the business.
Correct, yeah, and that's the thing is being a business owner. If you're working in the business and not on the business, you have a job. You don't have a business.
I agree, but that's usually what you see. You see that with mechanics. You see that with almost any service industry company these days. Most of the people still work in a business and they never create a path or even see a path how they'll get out of it.
And it's tough. I was at the point where nobody's going to do anything that I would do as good as I'm going to do it, or 100%, right? So, but the way you have to see it is you have to start unloading these areas that are tying you up. And even if that person is operating at 80% or 70% of the level of what you would do, that still frees you up where it's acceptable level of service. The job is getting done. And now you can focus on those other areas. Whether it's a mechanic, now you've hired an assistant or whatever to do the mechanic's work. Now you can focus on growing the business by advertising. How are you going to market it? You can actually go out and try to make sales calls yourself if that's your thing. You can't do that if you're in the shop doing the work yourself. So that was the same thing for me. I had to hire a tech, and I have one now, and I have a couple, but the one now is very good. I don't have to watch over his shoulders, and he takes the initiative. It takes some sitting down and explaining what you expect. Once you do that, it sets the stage, and they understand. If you have somebody good, I mean, and that's something else. You don't need a rocket scientist. You just need somebody that has common sense, and you sit there, you can talk to them. They understand, and they'll follow through because they want to see your business succeed just as much as you do.
Hopefully. So you took the business, you broke it down into parts: technical, sales, marketing, operations, and you started putting people in place. Salespeople. How did that work out for you? That's one of the main blind spots for a lot of businesses. They'll get, a sales guy. That's like their first hire, and things just go wrong with it.
See, that's a tough thing, right? Yeah. Sales is one of the first areas to look at. So for me, that was it, right? So do I hire somebody that's going to be a salesperson, or do I hire a technical person? It could have branched out either way there. So for any kind of business, that's either a salesperson or it's somebody to actually do whatever the work is of the business itself. And I chose to have a tech because I can do some of the sales stuff. Now, I don't necessarily want to continue to do it because, again, my skills are better focused on growing the business, not not doing the regimen of doing the cold calling, doing the follow-ups, doing those types of things. So a good book is Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine. You need to hire somebody that's going to be focused and dedicated and who's hungry for that paycheck. They're going to want to go out and do that. So that's where I am now. I don't have a dedicated salesperson like that, but that is my next hire.
That's the next step. But you're still able to go on these longer trips. So how does the business still work when you're out?
Well, the techs now are managed through a central system that I can monitor through the cloud. So I do have my fingers on the pulse of the business and I can see overall, and I can send an email if I need to, but I'm not constantly watching it. They're very good with following up on clients. And I have an administrative assistant who I've handed my books to. So she's writing the paychecks. And we do that through QuickBooks, and that handles the payroll. So she's handling that. And again, that's in the cloud, so I can see what's going on in there. The other thing I will say is the person that's handling my books, I've known her. I've had a professional relationship with her for about 7 years. She didn't come blindly off the street. We have mutual trust for each other.
Makes sense. You mentioned the cloud a couple times. Can you be more specific?
Sure. So with technology, you might as well use it. And in my business, it's front and center. There's an application, and you could build something if you really needed to suit your own needs through like Microsoft Access or something like that. And I have it on a hosted platform on the cloud. So that would be similar to a service that most people are familiar with, like your email, like Gmail or Yahoo Mail, something like that, where you log in from any computer with an internet connection. You have access to that. So it's the same idea, except mine is a private server. And it's in that type of an environment where I can log in from somebody stole my laptop, or if I don't have it, or if it breaks or whatever. I can borrow yours, say, if we're in a coffee shop, and I can check on the business. I can pull up the application. QuickBooks runs through a Citrix application, so that pops up. And I can do it on a Mac, I can do it on a PC, I can do it on an iPad, I can do it on whatever.
Interesting. How do you manage the sales process then, since you still don't have anyone hired for that when you're doing it through the cloud?
That's the tough part now. So for the tech business in particular, we do what's called canvassing. So when my techs are out servicing a client, they'll distribute our information to other businesses in that locale, and then they'll collect a business card and enter it into that system that's in the cloud. I can then log in, and through how we're even doing this interview now through Skype, I have it set so that when I call out to a regular phone line, my caller ID shows up as the office line. So they don't even know that I'm calling up by Skype. But I can now set sales appointments or anything like that over the phone, and if it does not require physical presence, I can send any materials electronically, either through email, or I can set up any kind of share account on Dropbox or something like that and share it with the prospective client. And then if somebody has to physically go to the location, I can do as much as possible remotely myself, and then just have one of the techs or the administrative assistant go and drop off whatever it was physically.
How did you set up Skype so that it shows your regular office number? How does it work?
Offhand, I'd have to go back in and look at it, but I pay for I don't think it's a premium service or something like that. But I load it with I keep like $20 in the Skype account so I can make landline calls. And I think there was an option in there that's part of that. I don't think they charge extra, and you can set the caller ID phone number.
Oh, that's interesting. I think that will help.
It's great because now when I go to Bali, I don't announce it to anybody. I mean, I have a Facebook account like everybody else, right? So, close group of friends, I may post something or something like that. But if I call a client and they think I'm in Bali or whatever, then that starts a chain of, they get a little jealous and,
Yeah, but I mean, once they find out how crappy the internet is in Bali, they kind of get back to being in a good mood, right?
Yeah, that's the tough part is places like Bali or any other developing country, you need to go to an establishment that has good internet, which could be kind of hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to say in Bali, where is this establishment? Please give us an address.
It's true. If you catch it at night, which is actually, it's almost a 12-hour difference from where my market is in the States, the internet usage is not very heavy in Bali. So the last time I was there, I didn't really have any issues connecting.
Pretty much speaking in the middle of the night.
Right.
which kind of messes up your sleep cycle, though.
And that's the bad thing. So ultimately, yes, that's why I say the next hire is a salesperson, so I can take that off my shoulders, and then I can focus solely on, well, what's the next market to go after, and let's structure the marketing campaign, and so on and so forth.
Let's go back to that mind state of when you first realize you got to get someone else to help you out. I think that's the hardest step for a lot of people. Going from just me, myself, managing everything and doing it because obviously I'm the best at everything, to getting someone else to put their hands on it.
And you can keep doing that, but how long are you going to do that for? How many family dinners are you going to miss? How many vacations are you not going to go on? How many long weekends are you not going to be able to enjoy? Are you going to work on holidays? Like, how long is that going to go on? How many decades are you going to do something like that? And then at the end of it, what do you have? Are you too old to enjoy your retirement if you even get to retire? You need to structure this stuff as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it took me quite a while to figure this one out. But now, after I've done it and you make that step, I will never go back to doing it myself. You can't. You're never going to be able to operate efficiently as you can when you have a team behind you. I don't really say that I have anybody working for me. I have people that I work with. And I treat my employees that way, because that's the other thing. You have a business, you're only going to be able to do so much yourself. So you can only service X amount of clients yourself. But if you hire people, now you can scale that and handle however many more, 10 times more, 100 times more. Who knows what that is? But you wouldn't be able to accomplish that level without these employees. So you should treat them accordingly as well.
What would you recommend though as the first step for someone to doing that?
So it's figuring out where your time is best served. If you are that expert in the business of actually doing the task itself, well, then that's what you do. And then, yes, you should hire a salesperson, so that person's going to go out and bring the business in that you can work on. But if it's not, you should be hiring somebody to do the actual technical work of the business itself. That would be my feeling. And then I would hire a salesperson to balance that out. And then you hire the bookkeeper or administrative assistant to take on that role. And then you step away.
It's very good. I mean, at the end, you still have the operations though, right? And you have to think whether you will continue messing with that or if you will hand that off to someone else and go into, I don't know, maybe just a CEO or CFO position.
Correct. Well, and that's the end goal is, as a business owner, you can't walk away and be an absentee owner. I don't really believe in that. I would always have my pulse on the company. And what does that really mean? It doesn't mean that I'm in an office every single day. That means that I would check in either by email, which I get now. I get daily reports that I see and I respond